You cannot live the remarkable life. You will not have the remarkable practice if you continue to hold on to the personality traits and the identity of being a control freak. So today we're going to talk about being a control freak, how it's creating capacity blocks in your business and in your life. You cannot live the remarkable life. You will not have the remarkable practice if you continue to hold on to the personality traits and the identity of being.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
What's up, Remarkables? Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
Hey, we're super stoked, as always, to be with you guys. It's Friday morning. We are in the studio. I don't know when and where you're listening to this, but we're right here with you guys. We love this podcast. We love this platform. We hear you guys loud and clear. We love getting your feedback. We love hearing your questions, fielding your questions. Please be sure to reach out to us. Let us know. What do you want us to talk about? If you're a chiropractor that self-identifies as somebody who is a CEO leading an organization, or you're an aspiring CEO, or maybe you're like, man, I'm stuck in building. I'm trying to figure out how to scale, or man, I'm trying to scale with an eye on exit. I'm trying to scale well. I'm looking for the next level of my leadership. You're in the right place. Whatever questions you have, just let us know. If you give us a topic, we'll unpack it for you. We are in our, fifth year, Dr. Peter, doing this. That's just awesome. That's just awesome. What a blast. And we never run out of content because we're interacting and interfacing with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chiropractic teams every day, which is just a blessing. So today we're going to be addressing one of those pain points that just keeps resurfacing. And dare I say, Dr. Pete, I'm going to speak for both of us when I say you're talking to the right guys. If you consider yourself a control freak, you are talking to two recovering control freaks here. To make matters worse, we both self-identify as hardcore perfectionists, Clydesdale operator control freaks, right? Which is a terrible combination. I love how you say it, Dr. Pete. We love the work and we love to work, which is a double whammy. So today we're going to talk about being a control freak, how it's creating capacity blocks in your business and in your life. You cannot live the remarkable life. You will not have the remarkable practice if you continue to hold on to the personality traits and the identity of being a control freak. Dr. Pete, it enables everyone on your team to underperform. It forces out your A players. You end up collecting B and C players because they love that environment, right? So this is going to be a great conversation. There's so much meat on this bone, but it's going to be fast and furious. It's going to be a quick episode today, but we're going to get right after it.
So Dr. Stephen, you said it, and I'm going to agree with you. I admit it. And I'm going to say this to all of you who are listening. If you also struggle with this, being a control freak, and we're going to give you some signs and symptoms. If you can self-identify, if you haven't been able to identify whether you fit
you may be diagnosed today.
You're going to be diagnosed today. And I'm not a big label person, to be honest. I remember when patients would come in and they'd tell me all their diagnosis, and I said, you're going to need to leave that at the door, because I said we don't treat people based on their history, but based on their destiny. We treat people not on what someone told them that they are, but what we know that they can become. And we know that you have been made and designed by God to heal. And there's the power that's inside of you that enables your body to heal that far exceeds any medical test or anyone's understanding of that. And I've seen that proven over and over and over again. So, that's how I feel about labels. But here's the deal. I will say this, that, we struggle with this. And if you're listening to this right now and you say, I listened to the signs and symptoms, I diagnosed myself, I fit the bill of a control freak, that perfectionist Clydesdale, control freak, that person, if you find yourself in that place, that is what's holding you back. that is what's putting the lid on your business and on your life. And I'm going to ask you, if this is early in 2024 when you're listening to this, I'm going to ask you to let this go this year. Please do not continue with that behavior and that way of being. It is not helping you. It's not helping anyone. And the transformation that you will go through, I liken it to the metamorphosis of the caterpillar to the butterfly. So when you think about the caterpillar, there's nothing wrong with being a caterpillar. Okay, caterpillars are awesome. They serve a purpose. And there's also nothing wrong with being a butterfly. There's something beautiful about it. Both of them are good. Butterflies are good, but caterpillars are good. And they both serve a purpose. The problem is, if you are supposed to be a butterfly and you're functioning as a caterpillar and you never go through the process of becoming what you were created to become. And what happens is we resist going through the process of metamorphosis, shedding of the old, letting that die, cutting it off, pruning that, cutting off oxygen to that thing. You can't have that anymore, so that you would become the fullest expression of what your potential is and who you're created to become. And that's why this is something that we're very passionate about, is because on the other side of healing, from being a control freak, a perfectionist, a Clydesdale, and we can go into each one of those and tell you how much we love them and how energizing and exciting those things are, because we love that. But we recognize that that's the very thing that's actually holding not only you back, but it's holding many others back. And so today our hope is that this conversation will help bring healing as much as it brings awareness, and hopefully direction in where some next steps that you can go moving forward from here. Dr. Stephen, this is something it hits to the heart, and it's real. And I believe this is there's no better time, especially, again, this is the beginning of 2024 for us. So start this year right. Let's get rid of this control freak, Clydesdale perfectionist once and for all.
I love that metaphor of the butterfly, the caterpillar to the butterfly, and that level of transformation, that metamorphosis, because that's what this is, really. It is leaving behind. This is not an evolution, it's a revolution, right? This leaving behind an old identity and adopting a new identity, right? So it's like it is letting go of the vine as you swing through the jungle, right? And letting go to go to the next vine. It is literally, it's a leap that you need to take. And it's scary because, the old role so well, that's so deeply entrenched. If you've been an owner operator, you've been a control freak, you've been a perfectionist, you've been that Clydesdale for probably years, if not decades. It's a very, very comfortable place to be. And you've experienced all of the rewards, the recognition that comes with that, right? So, but the truth is that is limited, right? So there are limitations to it, and it is not scalable. It is not by definition durable. It is not ultimately sustainable or transferable, right? So all of those things should be a wake-up call to you to say, oh, okay, I know what served me before will not serve me in the future, right? So I love the expression that the strength of the leader becomes the weakness of the organization, because what ends up happening for the control freak who's micromanaging, who has their hands on everything, has to do everything themselves because I do it the best or I do it better, because I'm too busy to delegate. I'm too busy to set expectations agreements. I'm too busy to train and develop and equip my people. I'm too busy to take the time and do the hard work to trust and to establish an environment where I should trust. I love what Ronald Reagan says as he quotes an old Russian saying of trust, but verify, right? Setting up the reporting systems in the meeting room. There's a reporting system that give you the visibility, the meeting rhythms that create the accountability, right? So this is the ascension, guys. These are the bones of the ascension. This is a framework. This is not just a leap of faith. Okay. This is a process, and it's systematized, and it's something that you can learn and go through. This is new skill sets making this ascension. And when you can learn to let go, it can be very scary, but it's not as scary as not letting go and staying where you are, because where you are right now, that control freak, that person is micromanaging. And what that's doing, if you sweep in and you're the white knight that saves the day all the time, your team knows that, right? So what you've now done is you have surrounded yourself with a bunch of people. You've created an environment, a culture of underperformance, because you know what? They know Doc's going to sweep in and he's going to finish it. He's going to do it anyway. He's not going to go home until it's done. He's going to redo it anyway, right? He's going to do his, why bother? So you end up with this culture of disengagement at best, discontinuance at worst. People just leave you, right? And who leaves you? The A players. A players will leave you because they will not tolerate that. They will not stay in that environment. They might not put words to it, but that's why they left you. Okay. So if there's no room for them to be challenged and grow and be developed into the next iteration of themselves, they'll leave you and go find somebody else who has created that environment. So you lose your A players and you'll collect your B and C players. C players love that environment. Trust me. They know you're going to come in and do everything anyway, right? So they love that environment. So now what you've done is you've collected up a bunch of B and C players that are underperforming. Your controlling everything has enabled your team to downshift and underperform. Okay. So now you've got a business that's become more complex, more expensive, less productive, and less profitable. That's literally the consequences of what we're talking about. So not only have you not achieved your potential, but you are undermining it at the same time in the same way for the same reason. Dr. Pete, this becomes incredibly expensive.
Yeah, I think the expensive word is on every level. So Dr. Stephen, you walked through a few things. So I just want to pick up where you are and just say, okay, so what are the signs and symptoms of if someone's a control freak like right now? And you just said so many of them. So I want to make sure that we hit on a few of these things. One of the things that you brought up and is so clear is team turnover. Like if you go over your history of your career, it's very likely that there's probably been a track record of casualties along the way when it comes to team. And you can point your finger towards different things, and that's fine. I mean, you can tell the stories, and I'm sure there's stories, but ultimately, the turning over of the team could have started with just who you brought on, the hiring of the team. Yes, so that could be an issue, but let's say in and of itself, turning over the team, that's a sign and symptom. So if you've had high team turnover over the years, over the course of your career, there's a good chance that this is a symptom and sign that there's a control freak. Here's another component of that though. If you've kept a lot of people for long periods of time and they're not A player level people, and you're wondering like, I have a team, they've been with me for years, Dr. Pete. Actually, it's the opposite. They stay with me forever. There's people, but I don't really get a lot out of them, and they're not really helping me grow the business. We've kind of plateaued. We're not really growing. I still feel like I have all the weight on me. I still have to do everything. They always need me to help. Blah, blah, blah. You tell the story. That's because you're a control freak. You've actually created a perfect environment for a B and C player to find a home and to find residence. And that's been happening. And that's been robbing from your potential of what you could have been producing, what your practice could have been producing as far as serving the humanity and making a bigger impact, making a bigger income, and all of those things because of that. So it's either team turnover or lack of that, but lack of team performance and production. As Dr. Stephen, you said, it leads to underperformance, disengagement, going through the motions. This person describes a B or a C level player, they will stay with you. They will stay because they love that environment. It's a great environment for them because they know you're going to come in and you're going to rescue it. You're going to come in, you're going to take it over, and you're holding everything so tightly that they can't even really get a good grip on it anyway. So they kind of just hold back and like, well, you got such a good tight grip on that. Like, what can I do to help you? And really just, you got it. And so that's another, so team is one thing, Dr. Stephen, you shared that. Here's another sign and symptom. If you feel overwhelmed chronically, like just chronically overwhelmed, like you just can't carve out like this, like a level of peace and if you listen to our podcast in the past, we talk about what's your level of whelm. Like you're always in the 90% or more. Like I'm in so if 70 to 80% is the comfort zone and 80 to 90% is the stretch zone, 90 to 100% is the stress zone, and north of 100% is the breakdown zone. You literally have learned how to operate, and your normal is in the burnout zone or breakdown zone. You're beyond stretch. You are now in burnout zone. You're in breakdown zone. And you have learned how to actually navigate breakdown zone. But unfortunately, you're breaking down internally, and it's leading to issues, and it'll show up and manifest in your personal relationships, in your physical health. It'll show up in your meaning and fulfillment in your life. Dr. Stephen, these are some signs and symptoms that, if that's happening to you, if that's what's going on, there's signs. This is some evidence that it's there. And there's a few other things, actually. I actually want you to talk about something that we always advise, which is if you want to grow your practice, take a vacation. We'll talk about that too, because I know that's a big deal. That's always a sign for me whenever I, find someone that struggles with this. Taking vacations, that tends to be either not happening or it's very expensive, right, Dr. Stephen?
Yeah, I think it first shows itself in what I call Schedule-itis. And Schedule-itis is when you have a schedule that is so out of whack with what we profess to be a wellness lifestyle and a remarkable life, right? So Schedule-itis occurs, right? So where you recognizing it, and like you said, we develop this really warped tolerance to that type of load, right? So don't get me wrong, work hard, long and strong. I get that, right? None of us are afraid of working like lives depend on it, because they do. Don't hear me wrong on that, right? So, but we know where success lives. Success lives when there's alignment between your core values, your vision story, and your behavior, right? And we're not taking a 1 year or 3 year view of our career. We're looking at a 3-decade view of our career, and it's the arc of that entire career that is the remarkable life, right? So, is it something that is congruent? Is it sustainable, right? So, and probably isn't. So take a look at that schedule. Chances are you've not learned how to, hire a world-class team, learn how to delegate, set expectations and agreements, how to set up reporting systems and meeting rooms that allows you to have the visibility and the accountability that you actually want. As a control freak, you think you want control. You don't. You want visibility and accountability. That's what you really want. And you need a system that provides that for you, right? And then worse start to be as you see the lack of vacations, like you said. This is like, at the end of the day, you got to plug in the cell phone, right? So you got to charge the battery. You got to step away from the practice. You got to be able to step away from the practice. And the practice has to have durability. It has to be able to continue to add value and capture value even in your absence. That's what durability means, right? So as a control freak, you have to surrender to the fact that, listen, this place needs to be able to operate without me, right? And the reality is that you can't just decide, okay, so you guys stay open, I'm out of here next week. That's just reckless and irresponsible, right? So we're not suggesting that you just do that. What we're saying is that you have got to begin with that end in mind, is that I could step away from this practice from 2 weeks to 12 weeks, right? And this practice could still run and go and grow without me, because I've leveraged lead generation. I've leveraged sales and conversion. I've leveraged delivery by having multiple practitioners. I've leveraged team building through my management team. I've leveraged finances, right? So all of these pieces of the puzzle, Dr. Pete, create that durability that would allow you to step away from the practice, go on vacation, spend time with your family, and recharge your soul, and not have to pay for that vacation twice because you shut your business down, right? So that's when things get real expensive real fast. Dr. Pete, I know that there's a comfort that, the devil, right? The familiarity of what you've been doing to this point, right? There's a neuroplasticity to our identity and our leadership that we have to recognize is there for you, right? There's a synaptogenesis that can happen when you change your behaviors. When you get the truck tires out of the rut and you pull that steering wheel and you pull that truck up and out of the rut, and you adopt new behaviors that might feel scary and unnatural and clunky at first, but there's new skill sets that you can learn. There's a system that you can follow to make this transformation, to go from the caterpillar to the butterfly. You can make this shift, you can make this change and let go of that old identity that's in the way. And sometimes what's in the way is the way, because the strength of the leader becomes the weakness of the organization. If you know yourself and you know it to be true that you are this control freak, Clydesdale perfectionist operator, it's time to make the ascension to become the remarkable CEO.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.